Welcome to First in 2016. I'm Shirley Min along with Nichelle Polston and Mark Eichman. Education is on our agenda this week. We have a report on new science standards and their impact on Delaware schools. Also, a school success story as part of our content partnership with Delaware Today magazine.
Education was a big 2015 topic predicted by our State of Play cast. We'll be talking about the name DuPont as we gaze into our 2016 crystal ball.
Looking for trends in 2016? Maybe VJitsu fits that description. It takes martial arts training to a whole new level. A report on who's doing it and why this week. First, your public media news magazine starts now.
As we start a new year, much of the discussion around education will be terms we've heard in 2015, like Common Core. We know that involves math and reading standards, but there's another curriculum standard that hasn't received a lot of attention, the Next Generation Science Standards. Delaware education reporter Avi Wolfman-Arent brings us up to speed. And Avi, how long has Next Generation been in play?
Well, Shirley, Delaware was the 7th state to adopt the Next Generation Science Standards. That was back in 2013. More teachers now, though, are experimenting with the program as the state looks to expand it. We head to Sussex County for a closer look.
So maybe I chose water because you can have it in different states.
Jackie Kissel's 5th grade science classroom at Rehoboth Elementary School looks like a lot of science classrooms. It's full of stuff, experiments, implements, and in one corner, tucked next to a pile of book bags, one big blue basket.
It reminds me of Chopped. You open it up, you're like, okay, how am I going to figure this out to meet the kids' needs and get them where I need to go?
The basket contains materials a teacher would use to run science experiments. You can find kits like this all across the country. But Kissel's is a little different. It's part of its own experiment.
When I first found out that Delaware was adopting the Next Generation Science Standards, and I went online, and I read through the standards, I said, well, I need some more help. I felt like one of my students.
And so Kissel joined a group of about 100 teachers across the state who are piloting the new standards. In small groups, they've created new baskets and new lessons to go along with those baskets.
We came up with the manual. It used to be from a company. No longer. We are developing it ourselves and trying to make it attainable for all the students across the state and across different states.
The goal is to align these materials with the principles of the Next Generation Science Standards, and it's a significant shift. Next Gen tries to break down the traditional boundaries between scientific disciplines and focus instead on big underlying concepts. Today, Kissel is using the kit to teach the students that matter is made up of many unseen particles. They use eyedroppers and food coloring. They even pop a water balloon. This unit used to be called Mixtures and Solutions. Now it's called Matter and Its Interactions, a broader, more encompassing label. There's also a focus here on big picture concepts, such as finding patterns or cause and effect. Next Gen wants students to see and recognize these principles throughout their education, so that science feels more like a way of viewing the world and less a collection of distinct disciplines.
So here's my question. Are you guys going to be able to drag that droplet through the maze? Who thinks yes? Who thinks no?
You'll also notice Kissel doesn't give students right or wrong answers. Instead, she poses a lot of questions and lets the kids experiment. That's because Next Gen emphasizes real-world learning and student inquiry.
In the beginning, I taught the kids this is a mixture, and this is a solution, and this is why. And so when they would take an assessment, I'm like, okay, sugar water, since it dissolves in there, what is it? They're like, it's a mixture. I'm like, what else is it? It's a solution. Well, how do you know? Because you told me.
But Kissel is changing, and her students notice the difference.
Well, last year we sort of listened more than and watched videos and books and stuff more than do experiments.
And Stella, who says science is her favorite class and who wants to study animals someday, is a big fan of those changes.
I like it because it gets your brain thinking and it makes people think more and it makes them wonder on what's going to happen, and I really like it.
The world is always changing, so we have to answer that call and get my students prepared. And I love the idea that if they are wrong, that's okay. Let's go back, figure out how we can make it right or set them on the right path. I feel like I'm more guiding them than giving them an answer.
Right now, Delaware is in year 2 of a plan to test and roll out the new standards. By 2018-19, classrooms across the state will be using lessons like the one I saw Ms. Kissel teach at Rehoboth Elementary. Across the country, 13 states and the District of Columbia have adopted the standards.
There's been so much hubbub, furor, whatever you want to say around the Common Core standards. Why haven't we seen this similar reaction with the next generation science standards?
My opinion, the simple answer is testing. You know, they've had these big new standardized tests now to gauge how students are doing on Common Core. They've even tied teacher evaluations to how students do on these tests, and that creates a whole lot of hubbub and furor, like you said. We haven't seen that yet with next generation science standards yet, but I think that's part of the reason why it's been a little under the radar.
So is there a connection then between Common Core and next generation?
There's no formal connection, like they weren't created in tandem, but in a broader sense, yes, there's this big push in education to raise standards and set firmer expectations for what students should know at each grade level. You know, one of the things I noticed in Ms. Kissel's class, for example, is that she would reference the standards, the math standards they have, the English standards they have, in doing her science lessons. So these worlds are all connected in some way.
Some cross-pollination going on. I like to see
Absolutely.
that. All right, thank you so much, Avi. Check out Avi's education reporting on WHYY-FM 90.9 and at Delaware's online home for news, newsworks.org/Delaware. To implement any kind of change, schools have to make sure things are working well inside the classroom. We turn next to our content reporting partnership with Delaware Today magazine and a turnaround inside Dover's Booker T. Washington Elementary School. They have one simple phrase to explain the turnaround: BTW, best in the world. And they think that's just the beginning. Letitia Robinson has taught at Booker T. Washington for 15 years. During that time, she's worked with several administrations, but says the current administrator's inclusive leadership style has helped propel the school to new heights.
The teachers always had that drive to kind of push the kids to do their best. I think with the added administration that we have with Mr. Brown, I think he just added the topping on the cake.
Principal Dale Brown took the helm in 2012 after the state labeled Booker T. Washington Elementary a focus school due to low test scores. With the huge task of turning things around, Brown turned to his staff.
We solicited support of the entire faculty and staff. We first started out with a core group of teachers, many of those teachers being leaders in their own ranks here.
With the entire school body and parents on board, the educators were able to reach their goal well before the state-imposed deadline.
The Focus School program was a 3-year initiative with the opportunity to each year do a grant for $250,000. We got out in 2 years. We closed the achievement gap from 36.8 to 8.1 in 2 years.
Closing the achievement gap wasn't the only benefit.
I think Mr. Brown has definitely made this staff a much more cohesive staff. I've seen him with our staff, a lot of them, I think he's pushed them beyond, and I think even some of our staff, they're surprised at how much they've been able to accomplish because of his influences, and he pushes them to be better people.
Parents also commend the school's efforts. Laura Rosebrooks, whose son Dylan is in the 2nd grade, says she appreciates her relationship with the staffers.
They work well with us. They do an amazing job. If we ever need help with anything, they're there. Any questions, I can always call and ask. Mr. Brown has been pretty awesome in helping out with a lot of stuff.
Brown says more work still needs to be done to maintain the gains they've made. However, he says budget cuts to the extended day program has put the success of that program in jeopardy.
We know that the extended day program wasn't the cure-all. It was an integral part of what we did during the school day because it gave us what we needed, which was extra time. That program ran from October to April, 4 days a week. Right now, with that funding removed, we're going to be able to provide service for 32 days for about 30 kids.
Brown says what made the extended day program so successful was that it was a structured educational program staffed with teachers who were already working with the students. So they were able to hone in and help them with specific academic issues. Larry Nagengast wrote Delaware Today's article on this story. Larry, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Glad to be here today.
You know, you wrote that a lot of what helped Booker T was Race to the Top money. So without that funding, Can this success be sustainable?
We would hope so, but we can't be sure. You know, certainly the principal has done a great job unifying the school. Teachers are working together. They found a curriculum and an instructional model that works. Parents have bought into it. The problem is that without the Race to the Top funds, they cannot run the after-school program that had been so successful and important in providing additional instruction hours for the children.
They received the extra funding when they were underperforming. Now that they are performing well, is there an option for money? Are they still eligible for money?
Well, no. Unfortunately, special grants don't last forever. And the state's outdated funding system does not make allowances to provide additional funds for schools that have high populations of low-income students and English language learners. And that's going to be a big issue with the General Assembly in Dover this year.
It's unfortunate because it almost seems like they're being punished for doing well. I mean, punish might not be the right word, but anyway, in your story you also wrote about Eastside Charter and how they had hired a very motivating school leader. If that leader leaves, where does that leave the school?
I think in both cases, with both Booker T and with Eastside, they should be in good shape, because to me it seems that these leaders have created a strong foundation. Sure, there are examples in business, in education, in athletics, where a charismatic leader leaves and the institution takes a step back and can't quite maintain its progress. But there are equally many examples in all of those fields of leaders who leave a strong foundation behind, and the institution is able to continue to thrive and prosper. And we have to hope that that's the case in these two examples.
Yep, fingers crossed. Thank you so much, Larry Nagengast. Now, he wrote the Turnaround School story for Delaware Today magazine. Thanks again for being here. The magazine is on newsstands now, or you can check it out online at delawaretoday.com to read Larry's story.
Coming up on First, we take one last look at the Slam Dunk to the Beach basketball tournament. See if you can spot a future college or NBA star in the making. And get ready for VJitsu. Do you have what it takes for this intense form of martial arts? Check who does later on First.
Out with the old and in with the new here on State of Play. Let's get into it with Stephanie Hansen, former Newcastle County Council president and now with the law firm of Young, Conaway, Stargett & Taylor. Michael Stafford is also an attorney, columnist, and his work has been featured on MSNBC and on Australian television. Happy New Year to you both. Welcome back.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
So we told you this was coming. Stephanie, let's start with you. Our predictions of what the hot topics of 2015 were going to be. Let's see what you said.
Because gas prices are so low now, it may jumpstart the whole discussion again about the gas tax and being able to fund infrastructure. So that might be helpful. And the secondly, another item that was at least on DENREC's agenda, that it's spring, it's going to rain, it's going to flood. So we might again be talking about perhaps some sort of increased funding for stormwater management and flooding. We didn't get a gas tax, but we did get an increase in the motor vehicle fees, which brought in about half of that, and the ability to then borrow the remainder. So I think maybe half, 3/4 of a loaf we got with that.
Okay, so gas prices are still low.
There's
still challenges for the Transportation Trust Fund.
Right.
It's an election year, so you would think that gas tax would probably not be a part of the discussion this year?
I do not see it being part of an election year discussion.
Then let's get to stormwater management, which you also predicted would get some address in the spring. Thoughts on what happened with that?
My prediction failed miserably. No, we did nothing on the stormwater the fee or the water resource fee. It's coming back. DENREC is bringing it back, as they should.
All right, Michael, you are up. Let's take a look at your 2015 predictions.
I think this year is going to be the year that education becomes a very prominent issue down in Dover. I think we're going to see a lot of action in the legislature on education issues. I think it's going to be really the focal point of this coming session.
All right, so education did dominate a lot of the discussion. in the legislature and even since. We saw Secretary of Education Mark Murphy pack his bags and leave his cabinet post. Does that kind of count? Are you going to take that as your prediction?
Definitely. I read the tea leaves correctly there. The issues driving a lot of this, I mean, definitely some of the challenges with Secretary Murphy had to do with personality and credibility and the relationships he was able to build or not build with his peers, particularly among the superintendents, but among other educational officials. I think with Dr. Godowski coming in, you now have somebody in that role who is very credible, very well respected, well liked by everybody. He's done other people's jobs. He's got the resume to go with the position, and he's able to really collaborate with people. So I think it's a very positive change.
All right, so let's look ahead then to 2016, and we'll see this tape rolled back in January of 2017. Is 2016 going to be the year that the kind of downfall of DuPont really affects the states economically and even politically here as we enter election year?
It's going to have a huge impact.
I think absolutely it's going to be part of the dominant discussion, because what we're going to see is, 1,700 people are losing their jobs, and those are good paying jobs, and they're going to be looking around for places to go. And I think what it's going to sort of expose is the lack of real kind of economic strategic development planning that's been done, particularly at the county level. So that's going to expose weaknesses and holes in our fabric, particularly in Wilmington, but that will affect the entire county.
Yeah, there's got to be a middle, right? There's got to be somewhere, if you think about the economy as a continuum, there's got to be a middle ground between stocking the shelves at the Amazon warehouse in Middletown and being a doctor, a lawyer, a banker. And a lot of these jobs, when you look at who's being riffed and terminated by DuPont, they're solid middle-class jobs, research scientists, engineers, those kind of people. Those are exactly the kind of jobs that every state in America is trying to attract right now, and we're losing them, we're hemorrhaging them. I think bigger picture with Delaware, historically with DuPont, more recently with MBNA, I mean, we have had a development model of almost being akin to a company town. What happens to the company town when the mine closes? And that's in some ways the situation we're dealing with, where we've had these sort of anchor employers. MBNA, a couple of the other banks, DuPont, they're gone now, and that's not the model that we're not going to replace them with another anchor tenant in the Delaware Mall.
So either one of you want to go out on a limb, maybe on a non-political, non-election issue that will jump to the top this year? Maybe some sort of social issue that's going to get attention. 2016?
It's hard to say non-political or non-election year. What I think we'll probably see another discussion about, although it is political and it's election, is the death penalty. I think we're going to continue to, that's going to be another discussion that'll be had down in the General Assembly this year.
She's already taken the death penalty. So I'm thinking guns. The frequency with which we seem to have a quarterly national conversation about gun control. I think we're going to have that repeated. I mean, obviously, a couple of years ago there was some movement on that particular issue, but it keeps coming up. I think we're going to see that again this year.
Any other kind of election news you expect to be making? Expect to be seeing this year?
No.
No. Okay. Very good. We've just set the agenda for 2016. Let's see who else can follow our script. Stephanie Hansen, Michael Stafford, thanks so much for being here.
The predictions from 2015 were archived online at WHYY.org/first. All of our shows are online as well. They're also on Comcast On Demand. This show is there right now. We'll be sure to bring the State of Play predictions back next January.
Self-defense for some Wilmington students comes in the form of a unique art designed to raise awareness. While some folks are hitting the gym in the new year, one group of men and women is hitting the mat in an effort to introduce more Delawareans to some non-traditional martial arts techniques.
Karate, Kung Fu, Jiu-Jitsu, Aikido, and Judo.
5 different types of martial arts and some of the deadliest techniques taken from each one. All make up VJitsu, a modernized art being introduced to Wilmington.
The main thing that I would like is for people to learn, first of all, an awareness. Before any type of self-defense, there's an awareness. Be aware of where you are, be aware of what you're doing. And VJitsu helps to build that awareness. So first of all, being aware, and then second of all, learning how to defend yourself so that you can get home to your loved ones.
This is the original face behind VJitsu, Florindo Visitachin, a Filipino man who decided to create the system of self-defense. Robert Evans, pictured with Visitachin, later mastered the techniques, passing on his skills to this man.
When you guys are attacking, same thing, I really want you to try to hit the stomach because that's going to give a realistic depiction of what's going to happen in the street.
And students don't seem to mind to step up to their black belt trainer who doesn't hold back in class.
Mandible, mandible. Again, grabbing. The very first class that you take, you will be able to go out and use what you've learned to defend yourself. And that was one of our biggest goals. Is so many times people have to train for months and months and months to feel comfortable to be able to use something, but the simplicity and the practicality behind the techniques are what makes VJitsu different also.
Some of the techniques may appear easy, but there's certainly a method behind every move taught.
Facing this way, and she's talking to her friend, right? And then someone comes behind her and they push her. Whew. Now she can turn around and be ready to engage in whatever it is that she's ready to engage in.
VJitsu may be all about self-defense, but each student takes home something different from the art.
VJitsu keeps me sane. I teach middle school, and that could be very challenging. And you take a lot of what the children bring into you all day long. The not eating their breakfast, losing their homework, drama at home, and I have to absorb all that as a teacher / mom. So I come here and I get to release it all, and it helps me be mentally strong the next day.
But mentally strong is just half of the story according to the men in class.
The women in VJitsu are tough. I don't want to mess it. I wouldn't be in the dark alley with any of these women because they're gonna hurt you. As I say at home, I don't want any trouble, none. The women, just because they're women, doesn't mean a thing. Musa trains them just like a guy. If we try to go soft on them because they are women, we pay the price.
And that's what the teacher doesn't want, any of these students to pay the price as a victim due to any threatening situation.
Stretch your arms out. Here I come. Up.
The Modern VJitsu membership has over 500 members in several different states, such as Connecticut, New York, and Florida. Outside of the Modern VJitsu Club in Wilmington, there's also Modern VJitsu Athletics in Newark. To learn more about VJitsu or to take up the art, go to www.clubmvj.com. Who knows, you may even run into me in class.
The great thing about news is that we'll report stories and issues and then turn to Rob Tourneau to put them in perspective through his cartoons. Happy New Year, Rob.
Happy New Year to you too.
Your new cartoon we're going to talk about this year talks about guns. Now, President Obama just unveiled all these executive actions regarding gun control, so this is sort of apropos. But this cartoon is about a lawsuit filed against the state about open carrying in state parks. Let's talk about this.
Right. So the state constitution is very broad in terms of what it allows in gun control, but state parks, there's a ban on allowing firearms other than hunting, which to me, there's been no problem with that policy. But now a lawyer in Wilmington and some groups want to sort of sue because apparently we want guns everywhere they can possibly be in our society. I disagree with that, but we'll see how it goes.
I like the little gopher in the park,
Well, yeah, I go to Glasgow Park. It's not a state park, but you have Trap Pond, you have all these places where you have families and you have kids. I don't think people need to be carrying weaponry going to these parks. It's just my opinion.
We might get some emails from some registered gun owners.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the next cartoon, we're talking the Eagles, and you compare the team to a dumpster fire.
Well, yeah, I mean, everyone keeps talking about these high-profile coaches that are just going to want to come to Philadelphia, and firing Chip Kelly's just left the team decimated from a personnel perspective, and they don't have a second-round draft pick. So it'll be interesting to see who they are able to bring in.
Not a lot of hope there.
Well, the division's terrible, so they might be okay.
All right, thanks so much, Rob. Remember, you can see his cartoons on the pages of newsworks.org. You can also follow him on Twitter at Rob Tourneau.
Over 12,000 people came out to watch parts of the basketball competition known as Slam Dunk to the Beach last month. That's not a bad turnout to watch high school basketball right after Christmas Day in Rehoboth Beach. Our first experience this week is produced by photojournalist Paul Parmalee, who took in some of the highlights.
We're at Cape Henlopen High School Slam Dunk to the Beach basketball tournament. After an 11-year hiatus, we brought the tournament back last year. I think we had some success with that tournament and made the decision to come back for a second one. And so far, we've exceeded our expectations on a number of levels in terms of our sponsorships increased, in terms of the quality of the teams. I think we added some higher quality teams this year, and we increased the number of teams. And I think we've drawn bigger crowds than we did last year. So we're very ecstatic of where it's going. I think we're heading in the right direction.
It's an awesome time. We are happy to be back for the second year. My son is Cam Reddish. It was a highly anticipated tournament, so it always measures up really well. A national tournament, so it's always great to have the opportunity to be in this forum.
I look at it as it always goes back to the product and the fact that the spectators are having a great experience here. We've had great basketball. We have elite teams. 3 of the top 25 in the country are here, and then the number of players that are in the top 100 as well as in the top rankings of their positions is truly amazing. So it's incredible basketball talent. There is the potential for the next, we always hear about the next LeBron, whoever, that the level of talent is there, that these guys will be playing at the next level, and people are going to have that memory, when they come back to say, hey, we saw them win.
Who wants a free t-shirt? Come on, who wants what do you say?
We've added some in-game entertainment. We have Nat Measley that's doing the, timeouts and the quarter breaks and halftime breaks, get the fans more engaged. And then we have some fan-friendly stuff out in the lobby, during the breaks for the kids. So we're adding pieces, but again, we're being strategic and we're being careful in how we're moving forward. And big isn't always better. I think our focus is making sure that we have high-quality teams that are in here, more so than adding days, adding teams, things like that. So the idea is for us to be one of, if not the elite tournament, at this time of year.
The organizers of Slam Dunk to the Beach are hoping that comments from some national sports writers will help generate the buzz needed to sustain the tournament for years to come. Writers from Scout.com and Slam Magazine wrote positive reviews about the tournament.
And next week on First, we report on a Harrington drug detox facility that combines multiple parts of recovery in one place. And First is at the Blood Bank of Delaware to see a new high-tech process to screen blood, making it safer for everyone.
Looks like we're off to a good start in 2016. That is First for this week. We thank you for watching. For Avi Wolfman-Arent, Michelle Polston, Shirley Min, I'm Mark Eichman. Have a great week.